Okay, so dear students, I had to discuss some 3 or 4 problems also. Actually, I had planned to conduct the classes on Saturday and Sunday, but because of certain unexpected commitments that arose due to the academic council of the Kerala Technological University, of which I am a member, and the meeting will be probably deciding how your junior semester exams will be conducted. So that is something serious. So I couldn't find time on Saturdays and Sundays. In fact, I have a meeting at 9:30. So I plan to discuss some 3 to 4 problems also, because I have already set your question paper for the second series to be conducted tomorrow. So these questions are also important. So without much ado, I will share my lecture notes, and then we will discuss some 3 or 4 problems, and then we will go into it. Okay, so this is what we'll be seeing today. I believe in the previous class we had been discussing the relationship between the Z transform and the Fourier transform, and we had concluded that the Z transform, the Fourier transform, is the Z transform evaluated over the unit circle, provided that the Z transform converges over the unit circle. So, for what kind of sequences do the Z transform converge over the unit circle? We have seen that for sequences that are absolutely summable, the Fourier transform converges. It's a sufficient condition for the convergence of the Fourier transform. And these kind of signals have an Z transform, and if you evaluate the Z transform of the unit circle, you have a Fourier transform. So Z transform is a general transform that can include both converging sequences and diverging sequences. For example, you can have an Z transform for a raised to n into u of n, where a is greater than 1. But you cannot have a Fourier transform for a raised to n into u of n if a is greater than 1. But you can have a Fourier transform, that's a discrete time Fourier transform, if you have a or modulus of a as less than 1. So that way, Z transform is the discrete equivalent of your Laplace transform, and the discrete time Fourier transform is the discrete equivalent of your continuous time Fourier transform. I believe this was the last question that we had discussed in the previous class. You had computed the Z transform of a raised to n into u of n. You had completed the Z transform of a raised into u of n, where a was real. And you had also computed the discrete time Fourier transform of the signal a raised to n into u of n, where modulus of a was less than 1. So now we move on to another question. So this is a typical example. So this you have to listen, pay more attention to. X of n is equal to u of n. So you see that u of n, x of n is equal to u of n is not absolutely summable. Why? Because it's equal to sigma n is equal to 0 to infinity 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus etc. up to infinity. So that is u of 0 plus u of 1 plus u of 2 plus etc. up to infinity. So all these values are equal to 1. So if you sum all these values, it's equal to infinity. So it's not absolutely summable. Therefore, you cannot evaluate the Z transform x of Z, which is by the way just 1 by 1 minus Z raised to minus 1. And you cannot substitute Z equal to e power j omega. So that will not do in this case. Why? Because Z transform does not converge over the unit circle. Now, for this question, you have to approach the problem in a different manner. So, a similar way, it's very similar to how you had found out the continuous time Fourier transform for your unit step sequence. So now, unit step signal. Now you will use a similar approach to find the discrete time Fourier transform for the unit step sequence. So let us call u of n as x of n, and we'll assume that u of n is Fourier transform to x of e power j omega. So your aim is to find x of e power j omega if it exists. So you see that u of n does not satisfy the sufficient condition for absolute summability. So sufficient condition is not satisfied, but therefore you have to check whether it satisfies. Even though it does not satisfy the sufficient condition, you have to check whether it has got a discrete time Fourier transform. Okay, so to start with, we will write u of n minus u of n minus 1. So we will try to represent u of n in terms of delta n. You have this recursive relation u of n minus u of n minus 1 is equal to delta n. Okay. You know the Fourier transform, discrete time Fourier transform of delta n is equal to 1. Applying time shifting property, this we can write as x of e power j omega minus e raised to minus j omega into x of e power j omega is equal to 1. I'll take x of e power j omega outside and write this as 1 minus e raised to minus j omega into x of e power j omega is equal to 1. Now you cannot write x of e power j omega is equal to 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus j omega. That would be wrong, because if you evaluate this at omega equal to 0, if I evaluate this as omega equal to 0, this becomes 0, and x of e power j omega would be 1 by 0. So that's a division by 0. So it does not converge. You cannot evaluate that, therefore. So however, therefore, you have to do this in some other manner. You see that 1 minus e raised to minus omega is equal to 0 for omega equal to 0. What does it mean? It means that at omega equal to 0, there is an impulse, because you are dividing by 0. So remember your definition for your unit impulse. You had a base width that was tending to 0. So which means you have x of e power j omega of the form x of e power j omega should be equal to a into delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega. You have a component at omega equal to 0. It cannot be 0 at omega equal to 0. You have a component at omega equal to 0. So that will be delta omega multiplied by some scaling factor a. So x of e power j omega should be therefore of the form a delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega. The reason being that you cannot evaluate this at omega equal to 0 as 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega, because that would mean x of e power j omega would be equal to 1 by 0. So which means you have some component at omega equal to 0, which you have to find out. So by the way, at omega equal to 0, you will get the DC component of the signal, DC component of the sequence. And your sequence is a unit step sequence. So unit step sequence has got a DC component, right? You can picturize the unit step sequence 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, etc. It stays above the x-axis, so there should be some DC component. And that DC component you can represent as a delta omega. A delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega for mod omega less than or equal to pi. Remember that your x of e power j omega is a periodic spectrum. So that's why you have for mod omega less than or equal to pi. So this is the value from minus pi to plus pi. This again repeats from minus pi to plus pi and so on. So this is your spectrum. A delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega. We will call this as equation B. And now your aim is to find out what is the value of A. So how did you get this A delta omega? Because you have some component at omega equal to 0, and the rest should be 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega. You cannot evaluate this as just 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega, because x of e power j omega in that case would have been a division by 0, that would have been infinite. So you include a term, a delta omega also to indicate that there is something at omega equal to 0, and you have to find out that value of A. Now to find out the value of A, there are in fact several ways to solve for the discrete time Fourier transform of the unit step sequence. I've chosen just one way of simplifying this answer. Now for that, you note that the unit step sequence can be split as a sum of an even part and an odd part. We will call the even part as UE of n and the odd part as UO of n, where UE of n is equal to U of n plus U of minus n by 2. So U of n plus U of minus n by 2. U of minus n is the mirror reflected unit step. So it's equal to 1 from minus infinity to minus 1, and sorry, U of n plus U of minus n. U of minus n would be equal to 1 from minus infinity to 0. So assume that sequence, you have a sequence from, that is U of n, you have the sequence U of n, which is equal to 1 from n equal to 0 to infinity, and you have the sequence U of minus n, which is equal to minus U of minus n, which is equal to 1 from n equal to minus infinity to 0. You add these two sequences and divide by 2. So which means for all values from minus infinity to minus 1, this value is equal to 1 by 2. And for all values from 1 to infinity, this value is equal to 1 by 2. And for the value at n is equal to 0, this value would be equal to 1, right? So that is therefore equal to 1 by 2, that's your DC component, plus 1 by 2 delta n. So we have this component here. So this value is equal to 1 by 2, and at n equal to 0, you have this 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2, which is equal to 1. And now the odd sequence is therefore u of n minus u e of n, because you know that u of n is the sum of u e of n and u o of n, which we can write as u of n minus 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2 delta n. Now you know that an odd sequence should pass through a 0 at the origin. So this is the odd sequence. So if you subtract from the unit step sequence at the origin, you have the value as equal to 0. So unit step has got a value equal to 1 at the origin. So 1 minus 1, that will be equal to 0 at the origin. So all these values are 1 minus u e of n. U of n is equal to 1 by 2 here. So this value should be 1 by 2. 1 minus 1 by 2 would be equal to 1 by 2. And here the values are 0. So 0 minus 1 by 2 would be equal to minus 1 by 2. So this you can write as u of n minus 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2 delta n. Now from the symmetry properties of DTFT, the symmetry property of DTFT, you see the 10th and delivered symmetry properties. You see that when a signal is real, you have seen certain symmetry properties. You have seen about 13 symmetry properties. You look at the properties 6 and 13 of the symmetry properties. When a signal is even, the DTFT is pure real, and when a signal is odd, its DTFT is pure imaginary. When a signal is even, its DTFT is real, and when a signal is odd, its DTFT is pure imaginary. So these are properties that we had discussed in the section symmetry properties. By the way, I had 2 students from E4A who pointed out to me a typo. So I believe I have corrected that typo. There was an additional irrelevant star, so that you have to remove in the properties 10 and 11. So I think I had explained that in the class session. So it's very good that at least a few of you are going through the video lectures that have been posted earlier. Okay, after some time, maybe after this week, I will put up some assignments, and one of the assignments should be to prove the symmetry properties, which you can solve and upload. So we will leave it to the next week after your second series is over. Now, which means that the Fourier transform of u o of n should be pure imaginary. So let us now write on the Fourier transform of u o of n. So that would be Fourier transform of u of n, which you have as x of e power j omega, minus Fourier transform of 1 by 2, which is pi delta omega, because you know the Fourier transform of 1 is 2 pi delta omega. Fourier transform of 1 by 2 is pi delta omega, minus 1 by 2 delta n. The Fourier transform of 1 by 2 delta n is equal to, Fourier transform of delta n is equal to 1. So this will be minus 1 by 2. So x of e power j omega minus pi delta omega minus 1 by 2. So which you can write as, so substituting for x of e power j omega, substituting for x of e power j omega, x of e power j omega earlier you had asked a delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega. So we write this as a delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega minus pi delta omega minus 1 by 2. So you require this term to be equal to what? You require this term to be equal to pure imaginary. This should be a pure imaginary term. So, which means, so to simplify this first, I will look at the summation of 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega and the minus 1 by 2. And I will group that first and then we will consider the other thing. So, 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega, you look at that term alone. So that you can write as 1 minus cos omega plus j sin omega multiplying by the complex conjugate. You can write this as 1 minus cos omega minus j sin omega by 1 minus cos omega the whole square minus j sin omega the whole square. Right? Now this is expanded as 1 minus cos omega minus j sin omega by 1 minus 2 cos omega plus, if you look at this, this is cos squared omega plus here you have plus sin squared omega. So this term is equal to 1. So denominator becomes 2 minus 2 cos omega. So that we can write as 1 minus cos omega by 2 minus 2 cos omega minus j sin omega by 2 minus 2 cos omega, which you can simplify as 1 by 2 minus j sin omega by 2 minus 2 cos omega. 1 by 2 minus j sin omega by 2 minus 2 cos omega. So when you look at this term is pure imaginary. So now we will write down the previous expression. So we have simplified two terms which reduces to 1 by 2 minus j sin omega by 2 minus 2 cos omega. So if I write that out, that becomes a delta omega plus grouping these two. So the first term is 1 by 2 minus j sin omega by 2 minus 2 cos omega minus pi delta omega minus 1 by 2. So 1 by 2 and 1 by 2 gets cancelled. So this becomes a delta omega minus pi delta omega minus j sin omega by 2 minus 2 cos omega. So you require this entire term to be an imaginary part. This should be entirely imaginary. So which means a delta omega minus pi delta omega should be equal to 0 because that's a real term. Or in other words, a is equal to pi. So you have a is equal to pi. So I will put that back to the equation a. So Fourier transform of UFN therefore will be equal to pi delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega for mod omega less than or equal to pi. Pi delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega for mod omega less than or equal to pi. I want you to plot this. I have purposefully not plotted this. So I require you to plot the magnitude spectrum. I only need you to plot the magnitude spectrum for the Fourier transform of UFN, and I want you to see how it looks like. So you will see that there is an impulse function at omega equal to 0 with a height equal to pi. It's a Kronecker delta with a height equal to pi. And then you will see that it's sort of exponentially decreases to either side. So I want you to plot that first. Maybe you can try this today itself. Okay, right? So we now move on to a very important property of discrete time Fourier transforms. Actually, I should have discussed this as part of the properties of DTFT. So I have purposefully left out this property so that it could be discussed after deriving the Fourier transform of the unit step. Now, the accumulation property of the DTFT. Accumulation property of the DTFT is very straightforward. You can just write sigma k equal to minus infinity to n x of k. So what it does is, it adds up all the samples of x of n from minus infinity to n, right? All samples are added from minus infinity to the current sample. Add all samples of x of k from minus infinity to n. So that's an accumulated sum. All the sum till the sample n of x of k is Fourier transform to pi x of 0 into delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega into x of omega for mod omega less than equal to pi. So you see an uncanny resemblance to this expression, pi delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to. So here you have pi into x of 0 into delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega into x of omega for mod omega less than equal to pi. So this is very easily proven by observing that sigma k equal to minus infinity to n x of k can be written as sigma k equal to minus infinity to infinity x of k into u of n minus k. Why? Because where does u of n minus k lie? U of n minus k, you see the variable is k, u of n minus k is u of minus n shifted by n samples to the right. So it's equal to 1 only for the samples from minus infinity to n. See that the variable is k, not n. Here it's a constant. You can assume this to be a constant. So this is sigma k equal to minus infinity to infinity x of k u of n minus k, which is the equation for a discrete convolution, which you can write as x of n convolved with u of n. So Fourier transform of sigma k equal to minus infinity to n x of k is therefore x of e power j omega convolved with pi delta omega plus 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega, which is x of e power j omega convolved with pi delta omega. Sorry, this is a multiplication. Sorry, this is a multiplication, right? X of n convolved with u of n is a multiplication of x of e power j omega. So this is to be read as a multiplication. It's not a convolution. This is a multiplication. X of e power j omega into pi delta omega by 1 minus e raised to minus omega. So from the shifting property of the impulse function, delta omega into x of e power j omega is just sampling x of e power j omega at omega equal to 0. So this becomes pi into x of 0 into delta omega plus the second term is 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus omega to x of omega. So this we can write as x of e power j omega for mod omega less than or equal to 1. So that's the accumulation property of the discrete time Fourier transform. Now we will look at two more questions, which are fairly straightforward. Find the Fourier transform of the rectangular pulse u of n minus u of n minus n. U of n minus u of n minus n. U of n minus u of n minus n. So, which means it's a difference between two unit step functions. This rectangular pulse is a difference of two unit step functions. The first unit step sequence is u of n. The second unit step sequence is u of n minus n. Starts from n to plus infinity. So the difference is these n samples from 0 to n minus 1. So this is a rectangular pulse of height 1 existing from 0 to n minus 1. Now, let us look at whether the Z transform of this sequence exists. So you already know that you can easily find out the Z transform. So this is a geometric progression. Z transform is a geometric progression because sigma n equal to 0 to n minus 1. X of n is equal to 1. 1 into z raised to n. So that is 1 sum to n times of a geometric progression is 1 minus z raised to n by 1 minus z for mod z greater than 0. Where if you expand this, you will get this as 1 plus z raised to minus 1 plus z raised to minus 2 plus etc. up to z raised to minus n minus 1. So what is the ROC? The ROC is the entire z plane except z equal to 0. Entire z plane except z equal to 0. You can very easily verify this. For z equal to 0, this is 1 plus 1 by 0 plus 1 by 0 plus etc. All these do not converge. So you put any other value for z, you get a finite value. So which means you have n poles. You have n poles at the origin. You have n number of poles at the origin. Do you understand this? This sequence has got n poles at the origin. So what is the ROC? ROC is the entire z plane except the origin. So which means you have x of z converging over the unit circle. So which means you can write the expression for x of e power j omega by substituting z equal to e power j omega. So which you can write is 1 minus e raised to minus omega and by 1 minus e raised to minus omega. If you take e raised to minus omega n by 2 outside, you can write this as e raised to minus e raised to j omega n by 2 minus e raised to minus omega n by 2 by you take e raised to minus j omega by 2 outside here by e raised to j omega by 2 minus e raised to minus j omega by 2. So this becomes, if you simplify, this becomes e raised to minus omega n minus 1 by 2 into sine omega n by 2 by sine omega by 2. Sine omega n by 2 by sine omega by 2. So you have to see how it looks like. It's in fact very similar to your sinc function or sampling function. Sampling function was sin x by x. Sampling function was of the form sin x by x. But instead of the denominator x, you have some sinusoidal constant in the denominator here. So not only that, you have a periodically replicating sequence. So if you look at the expression, you will see that sin omega, if you call this as x of omega, then you see that x of omega plus 2 pi is the same as x of omega. X of omega plus 4 pi is the same as x of omega. So that's easily verified, right? Because sine omega plus 2 pi into n by 2. So sine omega, so this term is periodic with respect to omega, periodic with the periodicity of 2 pi. So now we will try to plot this part. By applying L'Hospital's rule, you can find out the value at omega equal to 0. So apply L'Hospital's rule. So you get this as n by 2 cos omega n by 2 by 1 by 2 cos omega by 2. Put omega equal to 0. So this term becomes cos 0, which is equal to 1. This is equal to cos 0, which is equal to 1. So n by 2 by n by 2 is equal to n. So at omega equal to 0, you get the value as equal to n. So sine omega n by 2 by sine omega by 2 is a periodically repeating spectrum in the frequency domain, which is represented something like this. So this is just one cycle of sine omega n by 2 by sine omega by 2. Height is equal to n. It exists from minus pi to plus pi. Again, it repeats from minus pi to minus pi plus 2 pi. So minus pi to 3 pi. This you have the same cycle, right? So this is the spectrum. This is the part of the spectrum shown here. Now this is to be multiplied by e raised to minus omega n minus 1 by 2. This is to be multiplied by e raised to minus omega n minus 1 by 2. I hope that is clear. So this real quantity will be multiplied by e raised to minus omega n minus 1 by 2. This real quantity, it's going positive and negative. So you cannot call this as a magnitude spectrum. It's also going negative. This is being multiplied by e raised to minus omega n minus 1 by 2. So you have an additional phase shift. You have an additional phase response. Don't call it as phase shift. It's a spectrum. So it's an additional phase response corresponding to e raised to minus omega n minus 1 by 2, which is a straight line of slope of n minus 1 by 2, negative slope n minus 1 by 2. Now we'll do the reverse. Find the inverse Fourier transform x of n of the rectangular pulse spectrum. So this is the rectangular pulse spectrum that is given. So minus w to w, the value is equal to 1. And from w to pi, the value equal to 0. So this is a real signal. So the spectrum is symmetric. Magnitude spectrum is symmetric. So I have shown this to be a spectrum with 0 phase. So the phase is along the x-axis, which means the phase response is along the x-axis, x-axis. So that's why it's not shown. So it has only this spectrum. This is the entire spectrum. Spectrum has been plotted. This is not the magnitude spectrum. I have plotted this spectrum. X of omega equal to 1. So x of omega equal to 1 for mod omega less than or equal to w, and it's equal to 0 for mod omega between w and the pi, right? Between w and pi. So in this region, it's equal to 1. In this region, it's equal to 0. In this region, in this region. So let us compute the inverse dt of t, which is computed like this: 1 by 2 pi integral minus pi to plus pi x of e power j omega into e raised to j omega and d omega, which we can evaluate as 1 by 2 pi integral minus w to plus w e raised to j omega and d omega. Simplify as 1 by 2 pi into e raised to j wn minus e raised to minus j wn by jn, which we can simplify as sine wn by pi n. Sine wn by pi n. Sine wn by pi n. Anyhow, it's very similar to some function. That's a sampling function we have seen. Now we will plot sine wn by pi n for w equal to pi by 4 as an illustrative example. So sine wn by pi n and w equal to pi by 4. So let us look at n equal to 0. For n equal to 0, again you have to do compute the L'Hospital's rule. So this becomes sine pi by 4 n by pi n, sine pi by 4 n by pi n. So that evaluates to a spectrum like this. And where does it become 0? it becomes 0 when sine Wn is equal to 0. So that is when sine pi by 4 into n, if n is equal to 4, it becomes 0. If n is equal to 8, it becomes 0. So it's plotted like this. So n is equal to 4, it becomes 0. N is equal to 8, it becomes 0. If minus 4, it is 0. Minus 8, it's 0. So this is the signal. Now, this could have been the frequency response of an ideal low pass filter. See, if this was an h of e for omega, it could be the frequency response of an ideal low pass filter. And you also know that the ideal low pass filter can have also a linear phase shift. So a linear phase shift. So if you have this linear phase shift, then it only amounts to the impulse response being shifted by some amount. Is that clear? So this impulse response will be shifted by some amount. So ideal low pass filter, that's a discrete ideal low pass filter, cannot be realized because it starts from minus infinity. Okay, so we will do that in much greater detail in the next coming classes, which we will take it after your second series is over. So that's all for today. I will be asking certain questions based on today's lecture also for tomorrow's exam. So please go through this also.